3 months had passed since that first meeting on the Eternal Victory. 3 months of work, learning, and change. Yuna stood on the observation deck of her new flagship, because it was her flagship now. The command chair finally occupied by someone who wanted to be there, and watched her fleet move. It was beautiful. 1,347 ships, arranged in perfect formation. They flew together like birds, like dancers, like a single living creature with many parts. And in every ship, pale forms drifted through the corridors, tending to systems, monitoring engines, keeping everything running smooth. Day appeared beside her. She had learned to sense when he was approaching. The air grew slightly colder. The light seemed to shift. After 3 months, she found it comforting. "The fleet is ready, Captain," Day said. "All ships are at full operational capacity. The pale ones have adapted to their roles. We are prepared for whatever comes next." Yuna nodded. "And the training program?" "Proceeding well. The younger ones are learning to control their energy output. We have had no incidents with the human crew members." They paused. "They are less afraid of us now. Some have even become friends with their ghost partners." This was true. Over the past months, Yuna had brought in more humans, engineers, pilots, doctors, soldiers. Each ship now had a small human staff working alongside the pale ones. At first, there had been tension, fear, misunderstandings, but slowly, carefully, relationships had formed. Tay had become close to a young pale one named Sora. She was curious about machines, always asking questions about how things worked. Tay spent hours explaining engines and circuits to her, and in return, she taught him about energy patterns and dimensional physics. They made a strange pair, the quiet engineer and the glowing ghost. But they worked well together. Hana had formed a different kind of bond. She spent most of her time with Nari, a pale one who had once been something like an artist in the old dimension. Nari could not create physical art anymore, but she could shape light and shadow into patterns of incredible beauty. Hana would sit for hours watching Nari's light shows, recording them for humans who would never be able to see them in person. Even Minho had softened. He was teaching combat techniques to a group of pale ones who wanted to help protect the fleet. At first, he had laughed at the idea of Ghost learning to fight. But then he discovered that the pale ones could do things no physical soldier could. They could pass through walls. They could disable electronics with a touch. They could sense enemies from kilometers away. Now, Minho was creating an entirely new kind of warfare, one that combined human tactics with ghostly abilities. "We have come far," Yuna said. "But we still have problems." "The resources," they said. It was not a question. Yes, these ships need fuel. They need supplies. They need repairs that go beyond what the pale ones can provide. "We have money from my savings, but it won't last forever." Yuna turned to face the elder ghost. "We need work." Day's form flickered thoughtfully. "What kind of work?" "The kind that pays well and uses our strengths. We have the largest private fleet in this sector. We have ships that can fly themselves, crews that never sleep, and abilities that no one else has. There must be someone who needs what we can offer." As if in answer, the communication system lit up. Hannah's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's encoded with Earth Defense Authority markings." Yuna and Day exchanged a glance. The Earth Defense Authority was the military force that protected human colonies across the galaxy. They were powerful, well-funded, and usually did not contact private salvage operations. "Put it through," Yuna ordered. The holographic display activated. A face appeared, a woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, wearing the uniform of a high-ranking military officer. "Captain Yuna," the woman said. "I am Admiral Park of the Earth Defense Authority. I apologize for the unusual contact, but I have a proposal that I believe will interest you." Yuna straightened. I'm listening, Admiral. I will be direct. We have been monitoring your activities for the past 3 months. We know about your fleet. We know about the entities that crew your ships. Under normal circumstances, we would consider your operation a threat and act accordingly. But, Yuna prompted. But we also know what happened on Valari Station last month. Yuna remembered. A medical emergency had struck a remote station in Valari space. A disease was spreading fast, and the nearest hospital ship was days away. Yuna's fleet had been passing nearby. She had ordered the Eternal Victory to respond. The Pale Ones had proven invaluable. They could move through the station freely, unaffected by disease. They could monitor patients without rest, detecting changes in vital signs before any machine could. And when the hospital ship finally arrived, the outbreak was contained. Hundreds of lives were saved. You helped aliens who belonged to the same empire that abandoned your crew, Admiral Park continued. You asked for nothing in return. You simply saw people in need and acted. We're not monsters, Yuna said. Despite what others might think, no, you're not. The Admiral's expression softened slightly. Which brings me to my proposal. The Earth Defense Authority needs help. Our forces are stretched thin across dozens of systems. We cannot be everywhere at once. We need allies, partners, people who can respond to crises quickly and effectively. You want to hire us? I want to offer you a contract. Long-term employment with the Earth Defense Authority. Your fleet would operate independently, but you would answer emergency calls, provide support during conflicts, and assist with missions that require unique capabilities. The Admiral leaned forward. In return, you would receive full funding, supplies, repairs, legal protection. Your Pale Ones would be recognized as legitimate members of human society. Not ghosts, not monsters. Crew members with rights and status. The bridge was silent. Yuna could feel Day's presence beside her, waiting. Why us? Yuna asked. There must be others you could hire. There are. But none of them have what you have. A fleet of over 1,000 ships. Crew members who never tire, never get sick, and can do things no one else can. And a captain who chose compassion over fear when everyone else chose to run. Admiral Park smiled. We've been looking for something like your operation for years. We just didn't know it could exist until you created it. Yuna turned to Day. What do you think? The Elder Ghost considered for a long moment. In our all dimension, we served a greater purpose. We were part of something meaningful. When that ended, we were lost. Now, you offer us that purpose again, not as slaves or tools, but as partners. Day's form glowed a little brighter. On behalf of my people, I say yes. Let us serve. Let us protect. Let us prove that we are worthy of the trust you have given us. Yuna turned back to the holographic display. Admiral Park, we accept your proposal, but I have conditions. Name them. First, my Pale Ones are not property. They are not weapons. They are people. If you give them an order they find immoral, they can refuse. Agreed. Second, I remain command of this fleet. I work with you, not for you. If I disagree with a mission, we discuss it as equals. Agreed. Third, when we prove ourselves and we will you speak for us. You help others understand that the Pale Ones are not monsters to be feared. You tell the galaxy what they really are. Admiral Park was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. Agreed, Captain Yuna. I look forward to working with you. I'll send the contract details within the hour. Welcome to the Earth Defense Authority. Ghost Fleet. The display went dark. Yuna let out a long breath. Around her, she could feel the excitement spreading through the ship. The Pale Ones were talking to each other in their strange, silent way. The human crew members were cheering. Even Minho was grinning. "We did it," Hana said, appearing at Yuna's side. "We actually did it." "We did something," Yuna corrected. "The hard work starts now. We have to prove that this can work. That humans and Pale Ones can fight together, live together, build something together." They drifted closer. "We will not fail, Captain. We have waited too long for this chance." Yuna looked out at her fleet. 1,347 ships. Thousands of Pale Ones. Hundreds of human crew members. All of them looking to her for leadership. It was terrifying. It was wonderful. "All ships," Yuna said into the fleet-wide communication channel. "This is Captain Yuna. As of today, we are officially the Ghost Fleet of the Earth Defense Authority. We have a job. We have a purpose. And we have each other." She paused. "Let's show the galaxy what we can do." Across the fleet, lights flickered in celebration. The ghosts had found their home, and they were ready to defend it. The stars were cold and silent in this forgotten corner of space. No trade ships passed through here. No military patrols watched the empty darkness. This was the place where the Valari Empire had left their shame to rot. Captain Yuna stood at the viewing window of her small, salvage ship, the Morning Star. Her dark eyes moved slowly across the sight before her. 1,347 ships floated in the void. Battle cruisers, cargo haulers, scout vessels, medical frigates. An entire fleet, abandoned and drifting like dead leaves on a black ocean. "Captain," said Tay from behind her. He was her chief engineer, a quiet man with careful hands and a mind that could fix anything. "The scans are complete. Every ship still has power. Life support is working. Engines are cold, but functional." Yuna did not turn around. "And the crews?" "Gone. All of them?" "The Valari pulled everyone out 15 years ago." 15 years. Yuna thought about that number. 15 years of darkness. 15 years of silence. 15 years of waiting. "Why?" asked Hana. She was the youngest member of the crew, barely 23 years old. She handled navigation and communications. Her voice was soft, but her questions were always sharp. "Why would anyone abandon a fleet this size? These ships are worth more money than most planets." Tay made a sound that was almost a laugh. "Because the Valari think they're haunted." The bridge went quiet. Minho, the weapons specialist, looked up from his console. Gina, the medical officer, stopped checking her equipment. Even old Ben, who had been sleeping in his chair, opened one eye. "Haunted," Yuna repeated. The word felt strange in her mouth. Humans had many old stories about ghosts and spirits, but those were just stories. Weren't they? Tay pulled up a holographic display. It showed news reports from Valari networks, translated into human language. 15 years ago, crews started reporting strange things. Shadows moving in empty corridors. Voices whispering in sealed rooms. Equipment turning on by itself. Some crew members said they saw figures made of pale light walking through walls. "Mass hallucination," said Minho. He was a practical man who believed only in things he could shoot. "Bad air filters. Chemical leak. Something scientific." "The Valari thought so too," Tay continued. "They sent investigators, scientists, priests. Nothing helped. The reports kept coming. Then people started dying." Hannah's face went pale. "Dying how?" "Heart failure. Dozens of them. Healthy soldiers and workers. Their hearts just stopped. The Valari doctors found no cause. No poison, no disease. Just fear." Tay turned off the display. "So the Empire ordered a full evacuation. They pulled out every living person and left the fleet here. They marked this whole sector as forbidden space." Yuna finally turned to face her crew. She was not a tall woman, but something about the way she stood made her seem larger. She had led this crew for 12 years. They had salvaged wrecks from asteroid fields and war zones. They had walked through ships filled with radiation and corpses. They did not scare easily, but she could see the doubt in their eyes now. "I bought this fleet," she said calmly. The Volari were happy to sell. They wanted nothing to do with these ships. "I paid less for 1,347 vessels than I would pay for a used shuttle." "Captain," Gina said carefully, "perhaps there is a reason the price was so low." "There is always a reason. Usually, the reason is that other people are cowards." Yuna walked to the center of the bridge. "We are humans. Our ancestors lived in caves while predators hunted them. They sailed across oceans without knowing if land existed on the other side. They flew to the moon in ships made of metal and hope. We do not run from the dark. We light fires in it." Minho grinned. "Pretty words, Captain. But what if these ghosts are real?" Then we talked to them. The crew exchanged glances. This was why they followed Yuna. Not because she was fearless, everyone felt fear, but because she always walked forward anyway. "Tay," Yuna ordered, "prepare a boarding party. Hannah, bring us alongside the flagship. I want to see this haunted ship for myself." The flagship was called the Eternal Victory. It was a massive vessel, nearly 2 kilometers long. Its hull was dark gray, marked with the golden symbols of the Volari Empire. As the morning star approached, Yuna could see how well-preserved everything was. No meteor damage. No signs of battle. The ship looked like it was simply waiting. The boarding party was small. Yuna took Tay, Minho, and Hana. Gina stayed behind to monitor their vital signs. Ben remained on the Morning Star, ready to pull them out if something went wrong. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The air inside the Eternal Victory was cold but clean. The lights were dim, running on emergency power. Yuna stepped forward first, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. "Life support is stable," Tay reported, checking his scanner. "Oxygen levels are normal. No toxic gases. Gravity is at 0.8 standard." They walked through empty corridors. The walls were lined with screens that showed nothing. Doors stood open, leading to abandoned rooms. In the crew quarters, they found personal belongings still in place. Photographs, books, small treasures from home worlds. The people who lived here had left in a hurry. "It's like a museum," Hana whispered. "Everything frozen in time." Minho kept his weapon ready, his eyes scanning every shadow. "Too quiet. I don't like it." They reached the main bridge. It was a large circular room with dozens of control stations arranged around a central command chair. Screens covered the walls, all dark. Dust covered every surface. Yuna walked to the command chair and ran her fingers along its arm. "This is a good ship, strong, well-built. It deserves better than to die alone in the dark." That was when the lights flickered. Everyone froze. Minho raised his weapon. Tay grabbed his scanner. Hannah moved closer to Yuna. The lights flickered again. Then, slowly, the screens on the walls began to glow. Not with normal displays, with a pale, cold light that seemed to come from somewhere else. Somewhere deeper down, and in that light, shapes began to form. They were humanoid, but not solid. Their bodies were made of something that looked like moonlight mixed with mist. They had faces or something like faces with dark spaces where eyes should be. They moved without walking, drifting through the air like smoke. There were dozens of them. They filled the bridge, surrounding the boarding party. They made no sound. Minho aimed his weapon at the nearest figure. "Stay back." The figure did not react. It simply watched. Yuna's heart was beating fast. She could feel the cold coming from these beings. It was not the cold of space. It was something older, deeper. But she forced herself to breathe slowly. She forced herself to think. These beings had been here for 15 years. They had killed Valari crew members. They were terrifying beyond anything she had imagined, but they had not attacked. Not yet. Yuna stepped forward. She raised her hand, not as a weapon, but as a greeting. "Hello," she said. Her voice was steady. "My name is Yuna. I am human. We are not here to hurt you. We just want to talk." The pale figures drifted closer. The cold grew stronger. Darkness pressed at the edges of Yuna's vision. And then, for the first time in 15 years, the ghost spoke. 6 months after the Battle of Colony 7, the galaxy was different. Yuna stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Victory, watching a sight she never thought she would see. Ships from a dozen different species were gathered in formation Valari, human, and others she was still learning the names of. They flew together in peace, a diplomatic fleet representing the new alliance that had formed in the wake of the Ghost Fleet's victory. Day drifted beside her, as always. His form had changed over the months. He seemed more solid now, more present. The loneliness that had once made him seem thin and fragile had faded. He stood tall, or floated tall, with the confidence of someone who had found his place. "Busy day," Yuna said. "Every day has been busy since Colony 7. There was humor in Day's voice, something that had surprised Yuna when she first heard it. Ghosts could laugh, apparently. They could joke. They could find joy, once they remembered how. The galaxy cannot seem to stop talking about us. It was true. The battle had been recorded from dozens of angles. Videos had spread across every network, every planet, every station. People had watched in amazement as pale spirits passed through solid metal. As ghost ships moved faster than physics should allow. As a fleet that should have been destroyed instead changed the course of a war. But more than the battle itself. People talked about what came after. Yuna had spoken to reporters. She had addressed the Galactic Council. She had stood before billions of viewers and told them the truth about the Pale Ones. Not monsters, not demons, just refugees from a dying dimension, looking for a home. She had shown them videos of Pale Ones teaching human children about the stars. She had shared recordings of ghost doctors saving alien patients. She had presented evidence after evidence that these beings, so feared and hated, were capable of kindness and sacrifice and love. It had not been easy. Many people refused to believe. The Valari Empire officially denied everything, calling the Ghost Fleet a human weapon disguised as supernatural creatures. Religious groups on dozens of worlds declared the Pale Ones evil spirits that needed to be destroyed. Protests erupted. Death threats arrived, but slowly, opinion began to shift. Admiral Park had kept her promise. She spoke for the Ghost Fleet at every opportunity, using her authority and reputation to lend credibility to Yuna's claims. Other military leaders followed. Then scientists, who studied the Pale Ones and published papers about their unique biology, or whatever the equivalent was for energy beings. Then artists and writers, who saw beauty in the ghost stories and made them into songs and books and films. The children changed things the fastest. They were not afraid of ghosts. They thought the Pale Ones were wonderful magical creatures from another dimension, like something out of their favorite stories. They drew pictures of ghost ships. They pretended to be Pale Ones in their games. They asked their parents why everyone was so scared of beings that just wanted to help. Parents struggled to explain. And in struggling, many of them began to question their own fears. "There's a delegation waiting for you," Hana said, appearing at Yuna's side. She looked different, too, more confident, more grown up. The shy young navigator had become a skilled diplomat over the past months, serving as Yuna's primary contact with the outside world. Representatives from the outer colonies. They want to discuss forming a mutual defense agreement with the Ghost Fleet. Another one? Yuna sighed. That's the third this week. Word has spread. The Valari haven't attacked anyone since Colony 7. Everyone wants to know your secret. Hana smiled. They're afraid you'll make allies with someone else first. Yuna shook her head, but she was smiling too. Tell them I'll meet with them tomorrow. Tonight I want to rest. Hana nodded and left. Yuna turned back to the window. Beyond the diplomatic fleet, she could see her own vessels, the Ghost Fleet, now famous across the galaxy. They had grown since those first days. New ships had joined, some purchased, some donated by grateful governments. New pale ones had been found, two small groups that had been hiding in other abandoned vessels, waiting for someone to notice them. And new humans had volunteered. Engineers, doctors, soldiers, scientists, all of them willing to work alongside ghosts to build something that had never existed before. The fleet now numbered over 2,000 ships, crewed by nearly 10,000 pale ones and 3,000 humans. It was the largest private military force in recorded history. More importantly, it was a family. Tay had married Sora. It was a strange wedding. The bride was made of light and could not physically touch the groom. But they had made it work, developing a ceremony that combined human traditions with something new, something that acknowledged the unique nature of their love. They had become a symbol for others, proof that connection was possible across any boundary. Minho led a team of mixed human and Pale One warriors, the most feared special forces unit in the galaxy. They called themselves the Shadows, and their reputation alone was enough to end most fights before they started. Hana ran the diplomatic corps, building relationships with governments and organizations that had once seen the Ghost Fleet as a threat. Gina managed the medical division, training both humans and Pale Ones in techniques that combined physical and energy-based healing. Even old Ben had found new purpose. He spent his days telling stories to the younger generation, both human and Pale One. He told them about the early days, when everything was uncertain. He told them about Captain Yuna and her courage. He told them about Day and his hope. He made sure they never forgot where they came from. You are thinking deep thoughts, Day observed. Yuna smiled. I'm thinking about legacy, about what happens after we're gone. An unusual concern for a human who is not yet 40 years old. Maybe, but I want to make sure this lasts. The Ghost Fleet, the partnership between our people. I want it to survive us. Day was quiet for a moment. Then he drifted closer until Yuna could feel his cold presence surrounding her like a cloak. Do you know what the Pale Ones call you? He asked. I've heard some of the nicknames. Captain, Boss, the woman who shakes hands with ghosts. Those are the public names. But among ourselves, in our own language, we call you something else. Day paused. We call you the Lightbringer. Yuna blinked. Lightbringer? We are creatures of cold and shadow. We have been alone in the dark for so long that we forgot what warmth felt like. Then you came. You extended your hand. You offered us not just jobs or purpose, but belonging, connection, love. Day's form glowed softly. You brought light back into our existence. You reminded us that we matter. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She tried to blink them away. That's a lot of pressure, she said, her voice rough. It is also the truth. Day reached out and touched her shoulder or passed through it, creating a sensation of gentle cold that had become as familiar as a handshake. You asked about legacy. Here is your legacy, Captain. You taught the galaxy that fear is a choice. That monsters are only monsters if we treat them that way. That the darkness is not something to run from, but something to light. Yuna looked out at the stars. So many of them. So much space. So many possibilities. What do you think happens next? She asked. I do not know. The future is unwritten. Day moved to stand beside her, looking out at the same stars. But I know this. Whatever happens, we face it together. humans and pale ones, the living and the dead. A family born from fear and built on trust. Yuna nodded. Together. Far below, on a planet called Colony 7, a child looked up at the sky. She saw a fleet of ships passing overhead, the Ghost Fleet. On their way to another mission, another adventure, another chance to help. The child raised her hand and waved Dot in the lead ship. A pale figure noticed. It drifted to a window and waved back. The child laughed and ran to tell her mother about the friendly ghost she had seen. Dot, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the legend of the Ghost Fleet continued to grow. They had been abandoned. They had been feared. They had been called monsters and demons and nightmares. But humanity had seen something else. Humanity had seen friends waiting to be made, allies waiting to be found, family waiting to be welcomed. The galaxy had learned a terrifying truth. Humans did not fear monsters. They befriended them, and the ghosts, at last, had found a home worth defending. The distress signal came at midnight. It cut through the quiet of the eternal victory like a knife, pulling Yuna from her sleep and onto her feet before she was fully awake. All hands to battle stations, she ordered, running toward the bridge. What do we have? Hana was already at her console, her face pale in the glow of emergency lights. It's Colony 7, Captain. In the outer ring, they're under attack. Who? Valari Empire. A full battle fleet. 40 warships. Hana's voice shook. Captain, Colony 7 has no military defense. It's a farming world. 20,000 civilians. Families. Yuna felt her blood run cold. The Valari Empire had been making aggressive moves for months. Tensions between them and human space had grown worse. But she had never expected a direct attack on civilians. How long until they reached the colony? She asked. 30 minutes. The nearest Earth defense fleet is 2 hours away. 2 hours. In 2 hours, 20,000 people would be dead. Burned or bombed or worse. 30 minutes was not enough time for anyone to help them. Anyone except the Ghost Fleet. They materialized beside Yuna. His form was darker than usual, more solid. When he spoke, his voice carried an edge she had never heard before. We can be there in 20 minutes. Are you sure? The Pale Ones have been studying jump technology. We believe we can push the ships faster than their original design allows. It is dangerous. It may damage some vessels. They paused. But it will get us there in time. Yuna looked at her ghost partner. She had learned to read his expressions over the past months, the subtle shifts in light and shadow that showed his emotions. Right now, she saw anger. The Valari had abandoned the Pale Ones, had left them to rot in the darkness for 15 years. Now, those same people were about to slaughter innocent humans. Do it, Yuna ordered. All ships, prepare for emergency jump. We're going to Colony 7. The fleet moved as one. Engines roared to life. Navigation systems calculated impossible courses. And the Pale Ones, working together in ways that no physical crew could match, pushed the ships beyond their limits. The jump was violent. The eternal victory shook like it was being torn apart. Lights flickered and failed. Alarms screamed. Yuna gripped her command chair and held on, trusting her crew to get them through. Then, suddenly, silence. Stars appeared in the viewport. Different stars. The stars of Colony 7. Report, Yuna ordered. All ships accounted for, Tay said. His voice was strained. The jump had not been easy for anyone. Minor damage to 17 vessels. Nothing critical. The fleet is ready for combat. The Valari? 10 minutes out. They don't see us yet. Yuna stood. Good. Let's keep it that way. Day, what can your people do? The elder ghost drifted to the tactical display. His form merged with the holographic image, spreading across it like a living map. The Valari ships use standard electromagnetic systems for weapons and shields. Our kind can interact with such systems, disrupt them, disable them. He paused. But we would need to board their vessels directly. You want to send Pale Ones onto enemy ships? Yes. While the Valari are focused on your fleet, our spirits will pass through their hulls. We will shut down their weapons from within, turn their own ships against them. Day's voice was hard. They called us haunted. Let them learn what that truly means. Yuna felt a smile cross her face. It was not a kind smile. Good. All Ghost Fleet vessels, prepare for engagement. We're going to show these people what happens when you attack our family. The battle began. The Valari fleet was arrogant. They had expected no resistance, just a helpless colony waiting to be crushed. When 1,300 ships dropped out of darkness in front of them, they hesitated. Just for a moment. That moment was enough. Yuna's human-crewed vessels opened fire. Missiles and energy beams lanced across the void. The Valari shields held. They were military ships, well defended. But they were also distracted. They did not notice the pale forms slipping through their hulls. SOR A was one of the first to board. She passed through the metal walls of a Valari cruiser like smoke through a screen. Inside, she found herself in an engine room. Valari soldiers rushed past, heading to battle stations. They did not see her. They could not see her. She drifted to the main power conduit and reached inside. The energy felt familiar, not so different from her own nature. She understood it instantly. And with a gentle push, she disrupted the flow. The lights on the Valari cruiser went dark. Across the enemy fleet, similar scenes played out. Pale Ones entered weapon systems and made them misfire. They touched navigation computers and erased targeting data. They whispered in the ears of frightened soldiers, voices from nowhere, making them panic. On the Eternal Victory, Yuna watched her tactical display with satisfaction. The Valari flagship is reporting multiple system failures. Their formation is breaking apart. 3 enemy vessels are trying to retreat, Hana added. But their engines won't respond. Minho laughed. It was not a gentle laugh. They're trapped in their own ships. The ghosts have them surrounded. The Valari admiral's face appeared on Yuna's communication screen. He was an older alien, with gray scales and eyes that had seen many battles. But now, those eyes were wide with fear. What are you? He demanded. What is happening to my ships? Yuna leaned forward. My name is Captain Yuna of the Ghost Fleet. You know these vessels, Admiral. Your empire abandoned them 15 years ago because you thought they were haunted. She smiled. You were right. The ghosts, the Admiral whispered. His face went pale, paler than usual for a Valari. But they're just stories, legends. They can't be. They are very real. And they are very angry at your empire for leaving them to die in the dark. Yuna's voice hardened. You came here to kill innocent people. Farmers, families, children. You thought no one would stop you. This is war, the Admiral protested. Humanity took what was ours. We are simply reclaiming. You are murdering civilians to send a political message. There is no honor in that. There is no justification. Yuna stood. Here is what's going to happen, Admiral. Admiral, you are going to surrender. All 40 of your ships. Right now. You're insane. The Empire will never. The Empire will do whatever the Empire decides. But you are here, now. And every second you delay, more of your systems fail. More of your soldiers hear whispers from ghosts they cannot see. More of your weapons turn into paperweights. Yuna leaned closer to the screen. How long until your life support fails, Admiral? How long until your crew starts dying in the dark? Just like you left the Pale Ones to die. The Admiral stared at her. For a long moment, He said nothing. Then, slowly his shoulders sagged. "All Valari vessels," he said, his voice defeated. "Stand down. Power down weapons. Open your airlocks for boarding." He looked back at Yuna. "We surrender." The battle was over. It had lasted less than 30 minutes. 40 Valari warships, captured without a single human casualty. Colony 7 was safe. 20,000 people would live to see another sunrise. On the ground, colonists came out of their shelters and stared up at the sky. They saw the ghost fleet hanging there, a wall of metal and light between them and death. They saw pale shapes drifting around the ships, like guardian angels made of moonlight. "Who are they?" a child asked her mother. "They're the ghost fleet," the mother answered. Her voice was filled with wonder. "They came to save us." On the eternal victory, Yuna watched the surrender proceed. Valari soldiers were being transferred to holding cells. Engineers were assessing the captured ships. Everywhere, humans and Pale Ones worked together, efficient and calm. Day appeared beside her. His form was brighter, now satisfied. "We did it," he said. "We protected them." "You did it," Yuna corrected. "Your people. They were incredible. They finally had something worth fighting for." Day turned to look at her. "You gave them that. You gave us all that." Yuna shook her head. "I just opened the door. You walked through it on your own." The communication system chimed. Admiral Park's face appeared on screen. For the first time since Yuna had known her, the Admiral was smiling. "Captain Yuna," she said, "I've received reports from Colony 7, and from the captured Valari fleet, and from about 100 other sources who just watched the entire battle." Her smile widened. "Congratulations. You've just become the most famous fleet in the galaxy." "We're not looking for fame," Yuna said. "I know. But you've got it anyway." Admiral Park leaned forward. "More importantly, you've proven something. You've shown the galaxy that the Ghost Fleet is real. That it works. That humans and Pale Ones can fight together and win." Her eyes were serious now. "This is going to change everything, Captain. Be ready." The screen went dark. Yuna looked out at her fleet. At the captured Valari ships. At the colony below, safe and unharmed. Everything was about to change. She was ready. The voice was not a voice. It did not come from mouths or throats. It came from everywhere at once, from the walls, from the floor, from the cold air itself. It was like hearing someone speak inside a dream. "You are not afraid?" The words were slow, careful, as if the speaker had forgotten how to use language. As if they were remembering something from a very long time ago. Yuna kept her hand raised. Behind her, she could hear Minho breathing hard. She could feel Hana trembling. But she did not look away from the pale figures before her. "I am afraid," Yuna said honestly. "But fear does not control me. I control myself." The figures drifted closer. One of them, taller than the others, with a shape that seemed almost noble, moved to the front. When it spoke, its voice was clearer than before, stronger. The others ran. They always ran. They screamed and cried and fled into their metal boxes. They left us here, alone, in the dark. "The Valari," Yuna said. "They were afraid of you. We did not want to hurt them." The tall figure's form flickered, like a candle in the wind. "We only wanted them to see us, to know we were here." But they could not understand. Their minds were weak, fragile. When we reached out to them, their hearts stopped. Tay stepped forward, his scanner held up. "You're energy beings. Some kind of electromagnetic life form. When you tried to communicate with the Valari, you overloaded their nervous systems." The figure turned toward Tay. For a moment, something like surprise crossed its not-quite face. "You understand." "Not completely," Tay admitted. "But I'm trying to. That is more than anyone has done for us. Yuna lowered her hand slowly. The cold in the room was still there, but it felt less threatening now. Less like danger and more like sadness. What are you? She asked. Where did you come from? The tall figure was silent for a long moment. Around it, the other pale shapes drifted and swirled, like clouds moved by invisible winds. When it finally spoke, its voice carried a weight of ages. We called ourselves the Pale Ones. That is the closest translation your language allows. We came from a place that no longer exists, a dimension that touched yours in certain places, at certain times. Our realm was beautiful, full of light and thought and connection. We were never alone there. We were always part of something greater. The figure paused. Its form grew dimmer, as if the memory caused it pain. Then the collapse came. Our dimension folded in on itself. Everything we knew was destroyed in an instant. But some of us survived. We slipped through the cracks between worlds and found ourselves here in your universe. In this ship. How long ago? Hannah asked. Her voice was small but curious. By your accounting, thousands of years. Time moves differently for us. What feels like days to us might be centuries for you. We drifted through space, invisible, unable to touch anything solid, unable to speak to anyone. Until these ships came. Another figure moved forward. This one was smaller, with a shape that seemed almost childlike. The ships had energy, power. We could connect to them, live inside their systems. It was like finally having a body again. A home. But the crews, Minho said. His weapon was lowered now, but his voice was still hard. You killed them. We did not mean to. The tall figure's voice carried genuine sorrow. We were so happy to finally meet living beings. We wanted to say hello, to introduce ourselves, but our touch was too strong. Their minds could not handle our presence. They broke, and after they left, Yuna asked, You've been here alone ever since? Alone, yes, waiting, hoping that someone would come who could hear us without dying. Someone who could understand. The figure drifted closer to Yuna until they were almost face to face. And now you are here, and you can hear us, and your heart still beats. Yuna felt the cold touch her skin. It was strange, not painful, but not comfortable either, like standing in a winter wind. She could feel the Pale One reaching out to her mind, very gently, like fingers brushing against the door without pushing. Human minds are different, she said. It was not a question. Much different, stronger, more flexible. You feel our presence and your body adapts. Your brain rewires itself to process what it experiences. It is remarkable. Tay was scanning everything, his eyes wide with scientific excitement. Their energy signature is similar to neural patterns. They communicate through a kind of telepathy, but it's based on electromagnetic fields, not biology. Valari brains probably couldn't handle the input. Human brains are more plastic, more able to form new connections quickly. Lucky us, Minho muttered. Yuna ignored him. She was focused on the tall figure before her. You said you've been waiting. Waiting for what? For purpose. For belonging. For someone to tell us that we matter. The figure's voice dropped to something almost like a whisper. In our old dimension, every being had a role. A place. A reason for existing. Here, we have nothing. We are ghosts in the machine. Shadows in the dark. We exist, but we do not live. Hannah made a soft sound, something between sympathy and sadness. Yuna felt it too. These beings, whatever they were, had suffered. They had lost their entire world. They had spent thousands of years alone, unable to connect with anyone. Until now. Yuna made a decision. It was not logical. It was not safe. But it felt right. What if I gave you purpose? she said. The pale figures went still. Every single one of them turned toward Una. The cold in the room deepened. What do you mean? The tall figure asked. I bought this fleet. These ships belong to me now. I came here to salvage them, to strip them for parts and sell what I could. But I've changed my mind. Una spread her arms wide, gesturing at the bridge around them. These are good ships. They deserve to fly again. And every ship needs a crew. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then the smaller figure spoke. You would give us work? I would offer you jobs, Una corrected. Not force. Not slavery. A fair exchange. You crew these ships. You maintain them. You help us fly them. In return, you get homes, purpose, a reason to exist. She paused. And you won't be alone anymore. The tall figure drifted backward, as if shocked. Around it, the other pale ones began to move more quickly, their forms flickering with what might have been emotion. No one has ever. The figure stopped. Started again. In all our years in this universe, no one has ever offered us anything. They only ran. They only feared. I'm not offering you nothing, Una said firmly. I'm offering you partnership. But it has to work both ways. You have to promise me something too. Name it. No more killing. I know you didn't mean to hurt the Volari, but things are different now. You know that human minds can handle your presence. You have to be careful with other species. You have to learn control. The tall figure was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, it drifted down until it was level with Una's eyes. I am called Day. In our old dimension, I was what you might call an elder. A leader. A keeper of our people. The figure extended something that might have been a hand, a shape made of cold light and ancient memory. On behalf of all the pale ones on these ships, I accept your offer. We will serve. We will learn. We will be careful. And we will never forget this kindness. Una reached out and touched the cold light. It felt like dipping her hand in starlight. Like holding a piece of the universe itself. Welcome to the crew, she said. Behind her, Tay laughed a sound of pure wonder. Hana was crying, though she was smiling too. Even Minho looked impressed, though he tried to hide it. On the Morning Star, Gina and Bin watched through the helmet cameras. They saw their captain shake hands with a ghost. They saw her smile. And across 1,347 abandoned ships, pale figures began to stir. Engines that had been cold for 15 years started to hum. Lights flickered on in empty corridors. Screens glowed with new data. The dead fleet was waking up, and had found a new family. Una looked around the bridge at the swirling forms of her new crew members. Day, she said, I think we have a lot of work to do. The elder ghost made a sound that might have been a laugh. Yes, Captain. I believe we do. Outside, in the cold darkness of space, the first ship began to move.